is good, Shimon. We do not have to go to the bank.
George Stevens is the director for next week's Saturday cinema double bill. Triple Trouble is at 2:35. Then at 3:50, Elizabeth Taylor and Warren Beatty star in the director's final film, The Only Game in Town. In 5 minutes, over on 1, Jimmy Savile's back to fix it. Here on 2 in a moment, The Week in the Lords. Tonight's workshop features the young English conductor Geoffrey Tate and watches him working on Schumann's Symphony No. 1.
The problems of sound in Schumann are problems of opacity. That is, the ideas are expressed, so to speak, through a cloud, and you have to somehow get rid of that cloud. The cloud may be there because he put woodwind in a wrong position, or the cloud may be there because there are too much string sound in comparison with the woodwind sound, or the cloud may be there because, dynamically speaking, he didn't do enough detailing in order to allow within any particular group the necessary voice to speak. So what you really have to do is, it's like cleaning an oil painting to a certain degree. You have to get rid of an awful lot of varnish.
Geoffrey Tate conducts the English Chamber Orchestra in Workshop tonight at 7:30 here on BBC Two. Now on 2, we're resorting to the upper chamber to brush up on the week's events in the House of Lords.
The government are asking Parliament to validate wrongful acts done by the Secretary of State contrary to law.
Lord Denning, in his familiar role as a scourge of overbearing officialdom and champion of the people. He was speaking in a debate on local government finance, in which quite a few peers had dark suspicions that the government was trying to slip extra powers through Parliament without anyone really noticing. And he was at it again when the Lords questioned the plans to privatise the Royal Naval Dockyard at Devonport. A Royal Naval Dockyard, said Lord Denning, should remain just that, royal, and not be run by a commercial company. A little surprisingly, Lord Denning did not get involved in a debate about the appalling overcrowding in our prisons, although the government claimed that things aren't as bad as people said they were, and that figures about overcrowding were being used selectively. And after 50 years and endless arguing, the Lyndhurst bypass in the New Forest is finally going to get underway, or is it? If there'd been any doubts about whether or not we were now in a run-up to a general election, then those doubts were very firmly settled by the Employment Secretary, Lord Young of Graffham, in the Lords on Tuesday. He made a statement about proposed new trade union legislation that could be put lock, stock and barrel into a Conservative election manifesto, and it certainly will be. The statement was greeted, when it was repeated by Mr. Kenneth Clarke in the Commons, with uproar, and what isn't greeted with uproar in the Commons these days, and was greeted by the Lords with their usual stoic calm. Lord Young said it was all about reinforcing democracy in the trade unions. Labour peers said what amounted to, oh dear, and Labour MPs in the Commons roared that it was a blacklegs charter and the beginning of new industrial slavery. So, it's worth taking a good look at precisely what Lord Young actually said.
Experience has shown that unions' legitimate interests are not seriously weakened where the closed shop is not protected by law. The repeal of balancing provisions for the closed shop would give any individual dismissed for not belonging to a union the right to compensation for unfair dismissal. We also propose to end any legal immunity for industrial action designed to force an employer to create or maintain any closed shop. In short, we're proposing to end completely the use of the law in any circumstances to sustain the closed shop. The most important feature of democracy within a trade union must be the right of members to a secret vote in the direct election and re-election of their union leaders. The 1984 Act established such a right for the election of the voting members of union executives and created a presumption that postal ballots would be used. A large number of trade unions have retained workplace ballots, and the conduct of such ballots continue to give rise to controversy. My Lords, now is the time to act against these abuses. When we legislated in 1984, many trade unions did not have lists of memberships of sufficient quality to serve as electoral rolls. Since 1984, they've been required to have such lists, and they've now had the time and the opportunity to draw them up. There is therefore no longer any reason why we should not move to the most secure method of balloting available, the secret postal vote under independent supervision. The process of election is intended to ensure that the leadership of